Hi, this is Natalie Rydstrom with this week's SBR Industry News Update, reporting for sportsbookreview.com. Now today we're going to talk about syndicate betting, what it is, how it's spotted, and why almost every bookmaker has detailed rules against it. There are many different types of betting syndicates, but normally the term refers to a group of players connected in some way that make the same bets at sportsbooks. One advantage syndicates have is circumventing betting limits. For example, a sportsbook might accept €5,000 on a soccer match, but when 5 players collaborate to make the same wager, they've managed a €25,000 bet. The group often works for a flat percentage of the winnings, and the puppet master, so to speak, being the person bankrolling the operation. In the last week, Sportsbook Review received 4 complaints from players who claimed their winnings were confiscated on the grounds that they were guilty of syndicate betting. The complaints, while similar, do have their differences though. Dafabet Sportsbook, an operation licensed in the Philippines, confiscated €1,200 from 2 players after accusing them of the violation. The players, who were based in different parts of the world, did not make the same bets, and each risked a relatively small amount of cash, certainly not enough to exceed the maximum accepted by the bookmaker. 2Bet Sportsbook, on the other hand, which I spoke in depth with Justin 7 last week, confiscated winnings from 2 players who each wagered on the same market, an in-play Albanian soccer match. 2Bet linked these players by their region and bet history and claimed that they are 2 of 6 account holders. 2Bet is unwilling to discuss the dispute further, as the Malta LGA, their licensing body, rubber-stamped their decision to confiscate winnings despite the fact that there was no hard evidence, such as common IP addresses or other records. I'd now like to welcome lead dispute analyst Justin 7 to the programme, who has worked on some of these cases, to give us his views. Justin, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Natalie.
Now, Justin, we spoke about 2Bet in depth last week. Could you expand on this week with Dafabet for us?
Yeah, there were 2 players whose balances were confiscated. Dafabet said allegedly it was for syndicate play. I looked at that; it was actually a combination of syndicate play and bonus abuse. Dafabet produced evidence that there were about 20 accounts that were working together, collecting a 50% bonus and then betting opposite sides of the same match, basically to lock in a profit. When I asked for the proof, they asked that I hold the proof in confidence, which kind of poses a problem. Normally, when I rely on evidence to rule against a player, I either give the player the opportunity to refute that, but if it's held in confidence, I can't do that. So then I actually have the obligation to verify the evidence myself, which I'm currently in the process of doing. So this one is, but it looks like it's a little bit more solid, well, a lot more solid than 2Bet, in that they can actually show that one person or one puppet master, as you described it, was probably controlling, 20 accounts and collecting bonuses.
Oh, 20 accounts. So it'd be fair to say that in the case compared to 2Bet, the sportsbook is actually in the right?
If I can validate the facts, then yes, but I'm still doing that.
And how do you think this complaint is going to be resolved?
Well, if they have proven their case that one person is controlling 20 accounts, never mind syndicate claim, it's bonus fraud, and all the wagers and bonuses will probably be voided, and they should return the deposits.
Now, do you have any other cases where a sportsbook is claiming player fraud?
Yes, I have one pending with UWin where they confiscated €530 from a player. Their basis for doing so, they did a telephone interview with the player, asking him about his wagers. Wie heißt du?
Excuse me?
Exactly. I just asked you what's your name, but in German, and if you're not fluent in German, you're obviously going to have problems with the telephone interview. This player was interviewed in German, but he wasn't fluent in that language. So I've actually asked UWin for, what further proof do they have about this player? In general, a telephone interview is not a great way to establish fraud. In this case, they're asking him about his specific wagers. Now, I placed, in some weeks I may have 1,000 wagers, and I have no clue what wagers I placed at what books. And there's no way I could pass an interview that's asking me about what wagers I placed at a book. Now, a telephone interview can be okay to validate a phone number, for example, or ask about your identity. But if you're going to do what I call a telephone strip search, that's not very good. Now, I contacted UWin about this. They also said the player was using proxies, but they haven't provided proof that he was using a proxy, which is almost irrelevant, or any hard proof of any fraud here. and they're not really responding either. So I'm kind of disappointed in how this case is going.
But couldn't they have simply called back with an English-speaking operator? That probably could have helped solve some things.
Yeah, it would make it a little cleaner. But again, what are they going to show with this interview? If the person can get his name and his telephone number right, going much beyond that generally is not very helpful with the telephone interview.
So it does look like sportsbooks have some very unconventional ways to detect fraud. Have sportsbooks ever gone too far when they try to detect fraud?
Yes, and we actually received a complaint against money bookers from a player this week. The player was not a fraudulent player. He was an ARB player. He took bonuses, but he accidentally received an email forwarded to him from a sportsbook, where the sportsbook contacted money bookers asking about the player. They said, we want to know, is this player a fraudulent player? Money booker said, no, he's not a fraudulent player. He's a valid account, and here's some more information about him. So in this case, there was no proof from the sportsbook or from money bookers that the player was, in any way fraudulent, but money bookers allegedly was still willing to share information about the player. Now, this sounds like a violation of the Data Protection Act. I have not heard back from money bookers, though, so I want to give them a chance to refute or address this complaint.
Okay, well, keep us up to date with that, Justin, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you to you for tuning in.